It's time for Larry Croft from the Netflix steroided Steven Universe style Tomb Raider to take a seat. It's time for reboot Lara crying in the corner to go to another corner to cry, because classic Lara Croft is back with the newly announced Tomb Raider 4 through 6 remasters. So let's go ahead and dive into this video. I am so excited. It's a good day. I think this comes to us a day after that Netflix abomination has dropped, and it got terrible reception. Obviously, a lot of us knew it looked awful because of the manly Lara Croft, it's not Lara Croft at all. Not Tomb Raider-esque at all. And so he called out stuff like this, here's Zip from the series, who was a masculine man, a straight man. And of course, they relegated him to Lara Croft's gay BFF. So in a world of Netflix making everything queer, just let that take a seat and dive in to this. I could not be any happier. Look at this. Angel of Darkness, Lara, even. What the heck? I know a lot of people are really surprised at that. They were like, whoa, they're actually remastering Angel of Darkness as well. Obviously, this video quality isn't, it is a little limited with X's compressed and all that. Look at how good. Oh my goodness. Look at how good she looks. Oh, we love it. The real Lara Croft is back again to save the day. I think Embracer was like, pull the lever. It's time to announce something that the people will actually be excited about, because Tomb Raider morale has been extremely low with that Netflix abomination that just dropped, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge seemingly picking back up on that Amazon series and all that. But we got the real Lara Croft to look at here and to look forward to here. So here we have, you have the comparisons. Look at that. This is the original and then the remastered. We have this, which looks like obviously the same team from the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remasters, given... yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, the team on the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remasters that Saber put together, one article called them like the Avengers of Tomb Raider, which they are. They're the Avengers of Tomb Raider, the Tomb Raider fandom. And that's why we get notice how the remastered Lara Croft looks really good. It's because of... they had a fan make the updated character models. They have a fan doing the updated textures. They have a super fan who created a lot of modded Tomb Raider content, overseeing the entire thing, or even coming out with these like first person Tomb Raider, all this stuff. He's done so much for the Tomb Raider fan community. And yeah, so he assembled a team. And that's why the Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remasters were so fantastic. I mean, look how good she looks. In Angel of Darkness, I love how they still keep the same classic vibe. So she still has her same features, and people are always like, oh, this wouldn't work in modern graphics. This wouldn't work in updated graphics. Oh no, it would. It does work. It does. Not everything has to be realistic. Here you have stylized art that looks really good. Now, I would have full faith in this team if they even did want to make something realistic looking, that they would be faithful to Lara Croft. But I prefer this. I like this. Now, for those of you... here we have, she is so back, collect them all. So I know here's some screenshots as well. I know the 1 through 3 remasters, those dropped on Valentine's Day this year. So if you haven't had a chance to play those yet, I would 1,000,000,000,000,000% recommend that you do, because they are fantastic. And just so you know, Crystal Dynamics didn't get their grubby hands on this. And people are confused because they're like, wait, how come we're seeing stuff like this in Tomb Raider, but then we're also seeing all this Netflix garbage and all this reboot whiny Lara garbage? It's because, I mean, Tomb Raider is discombobulated. Basically, Embracer bought the Tomb Raider IP and the studios involved. Crystal Dynamics, who have been developing Tomb Raider since Legend and running it into the ground further and further and further with time, they're responsible for why Netflix Tomb Raider is super queer. They're responsible for Lara Croft being changed beyond recognition in looks, personality, backstory, and every other way. They're the reasons why we weren't getting remasters for this long, but then Embracer was like, let's go ahead and do some remasters here. This is what the fans want. And they outsourced it to Saber. Saber developed it, Aspire produced it, and Saber hired on that team of super fans, and they made this masterpiece. So yeah, I know these were like 50% off the other day. They might still be. So if you haven't had a chance to play the 1 through 3 remasters, I 1000% recommend it. They're really, really, really fantastic. Really good, really accurate with the source material. And yeah, and then here we have these Tomb Raider 4, Tomb Raider 5, and Tomb Raider 6. Now, if you want to know what to expect, I mean, if you've played the Tomb Raider, because I know some of you guys, you're just getting your experience with Tomb Raider with these remasters. Some of my followers have talked about, they're like, oh, finally, we can see what you're all excited about with, because I mean, obviously I'm a huge classic Tomb Raider fan. And so, but they haven't played it. And then they started with these remasters. Some people didn't start at all. Go ahead and play these remasters. You're going to get the actual experience, Tomb Raider experience. All the modern stuff is not Tomb Raider. Now, you can argue and say, well, I like the reboot games, and that's fine if you like them. They are fun action games, but they're not Tomb Raider games. And that Lara Croft, okay, well, I thought she was cute in the reboot. Well, she is cute in the reboot, but that's not Lara Croft. That's an entirely different character with an entirely different appearance, an entirely different backstory, and entirely different personality, and just entirely different in every way. So if you want to actually know who Lara Croft is, then you can play these games. If you actually want a true Tomb Raider experience, you can play these games. Same thing with, a lot of people start with Tomb Raider Legend, for example, or they really like the Legend trilogy. Those are fun if you want a really easy, linear experience that looks good. But it's not a true Tomb Raider experience, though it looks like one, but in gameplay, it's definitely not. If you want a real Tomb Raider experience, you're going to be playing these remasters or the originals, but I mean, the remasters run really well on modern tech. This is the true Tomb Raider experience because you're getting the actual gameplay that hasn't been watered down for the modern audience, that hasn't been babied down, that hasn't been turned super linear or anything like that. You're actually getting puzzles and acrobatics where you actually have to use your brain. I would recommend the tank controls too on these. There is a little bit of a learning curve with that, but that once you get the hang of it, and people have told me they've complained about tank controls, but then in the remasters, they gave it the try that it deserved, and they're like, hey, you're right, the tank controls actually work super well with this. So if you want a true Tomb Raider experience with huge emphasis on traversal and puzzles, play these remasters, okay? So what you have with these Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remasters, Tomb Raider 1 really has a whole entire different atmosphere of its own. It's really incredible, really, really streamlined. This is a game that doesn't have, I would say it pretty much doesn't have any flaws. It's very streamlined. It's very well presented, very well put together. The balance is fantastic in that. Granted, out of the original trilogy, it is the easier one. Definitely not easy, especially compared to modern games or like the Legend trilogy or anything like that, but it is the easier one of the original trilogy. Then you've got Tomb Raider 2 that does up the combat some, and it does feel a lot more, Lara Croft feels a lot more chaotic, which I love, but it also has some incredible puzzles. It also has my favorite level in Tomb Raider history, which is Barkang Monastery. So what you're going to see in in Tomb Raider 2 is that, also being able to ride vehicles and things like that. And then with Tomb Raider 3, what you're going to experience is more globetrotting and actually being able to, you're actually able to choose your location after you get through the beginning part of it. You're going to be able to choose the order of locations that you want to play, which is really fun. This is where things get really difficult in, well, it depends, because like on these modern ones, you're not reliant on save crystals. So if you really want the ultimate challenge, harder than any Dark Souls game, in my opinion, you'd play the original on PSX because you are limited with save crystals. But still, you're still going to get an upped amount of difficulty with traversal and stuff because there's, yeah, I mean, it can get difficult. And there's a lot of situations where you will fall to your death. So there's that. Now, what you can expect from the 4, 5, and 6 remasters. Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation, you're not going to have all this globetrotting. This takes place in Egypt, but it does have some of the best puzzles in the entire series. So if you really love puzzles like me, you're really, really going to love Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation. Utterly fantastic. All right, so in terms of that. Now, if you do like the globetrotting and stuff, some people do get a little bored of just being in Egypt. This is a very large game. There are some large hubs in especially like some of the earlier levels that almost feel like open world before open world. Obviously not open world, but they're just massive. So I'm curious to see how that plays out with load times and all that kind of stuff, which I'm sure will be a lot better than in the original. So then what you can expect from Tomb Raider Chronicles, I think personally, even if someone wanted to, if they never played any of the classics, you could start with Tomb Raider Chronicles. Because Tomb Raider Chronicles, it just goes through kind of bits of Lara Croft's adventures, even dating back from when she was a teenager. So again, I don't want to hear, oh, reboot Lara, that's her origin story. We already got to play as teenage Lara Croft in Chronicles and in Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation even. But in Chronicles, you could even start with this game, and I almost think that would be a good idea for people who haven't played Tomb Raider at all, because here's the thing. Tomb Raider Chronicles, you do have like bits and pieces of different experiences and different times of Lara's life that you're playing. So story-wise, you're not necessarily, I mean, it can serve as a prequel in some way, but you are getting a little bit of, I would say spoilers, but like, I don't know. Anyway, the thing is though, is in terms of gameplay, Tomb Raider Chronicles is definitely more linear in terms of the classic games and plays more like, I would say action game. There's still some puzzles and stuff, but it's a lot lighter. The thing is on something like Tomb Raider: The Last Revelation, you are going to find yourself stuck. You're going to find yourself like, oh, what do I do? And if you don't use a guide, which I recommend you don't use a guide because, hey, we're gamers, be gamers, right? I look down on having to use a guide for stuff like this, but you do you. But if you're playing without a guide, you're going to have situations in like Tomb Raider 4 and even Tomb Raider 3, especially. I mean, in any of the classics you can, especially any of the original 4 classics. But even in Tomb Raider 3 especially, and in Tomb Raider 4, you can find yourself stuck. Like, I don't know what to do, and you're finding yourself exploring, backtracking, looking everywhere because you may have missed a key. You may have missed a lever, something like that. So there's a ton that you're going to have to look for there. But with Tomb Raider Chronicles, there is a bit less of that because it is smaller, it is more linear. So this is a good way to get introduced to the basic gameplay of it. So I think even starting with Chronicles, if you haven't played the others, wouldn't be a bad idea because it'll get you used to the formula without it being overly difficult in those areas, and then you'll be ready for more of a challenge. You can jump into Tomb Raider 1 after that, which is the easiest of the original trilogy. Then play them in order. You're gonna Tomb Raider 3 and Tomb Raider 4 are the hardest of the classic games. So that's what you're gonna be like, oh boy. So then obviously with Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness, what you're gonna experience here is definitely something different. This is where they kind of take a darker turn. When this originally came out, the whole emo thing was really popular, which I'm still kind of stuck in that, which is cool. But I'm just saying, for Tomb Raider, I am glad they didn't continue down this path. Granted, I don't really like the path they went down anyway. I would not have continued the Angel Darkness path, because this is where you start to see Lara Croft's motivations not be for adventure anymore. This is where you have Lara Croft framed for murder. She's got to try to clear her name and all this stuff. And so you do see a bit of the problems that I have with Tomb Raider start with Angel of Darkness, but I still do have a special place in my heart for Angel of Darkness. And one thing I adore about this game is Lara Croft's attitude is incredible. It is amazing. She's definitely snarky. She's sarcastic. She's not some whiny baby. Love it. But she isn't having fun, and I do like to see Lara Croft have fun. You also see her not having so much fun in Last Revelation either. So there is that part I don't like as much. Now, you will find, like, in the actual original 3 games, it feels like, wow, okay, she's living for this. But in the actual original development cycle, the devs were exhausted, and that definitely translated into the games. And yeah. So anyway, that's what you can expect out of these. These are really fun. So if you've never played them and you want to wait for these remasters to drop, I think go ahead and start with Chronicles, because if you start with Tomb Raider 4 out the gate, you might get overwhelmed, and you might not even go back to them. Just being real, because yeah, if you're brand new to Tomb Raider, classic Tomb Raider, you don't know what to expect, you can either prepare ahead of time and play these remasters. Tomb Raider 1's a great entry point even. Tomb Raider 1 or Tomb Raider Chronicles, the best entry points for classic Tomb Raider. So I think it'd be awesome if you play the remasters, because there's still some time. The original 3 remasters, because there's still some time before these drop. But if for some reason you want to jump into these first, start with Chronicles. That would be my advice. Anyway, I'm excited. We're finally eating good again. Tomb Raider this is what we need. And here's the thing, the 1 through 3 remasters sold really well, made some good money, and everything Crystal Dynamics has made has struggled to even break even. So here we have and even if they've had so many, like, all this flops going on with the Netflix thing, you know it's a flop. You know it is. It's got terrible reception, even by journalists who simp for all this woke stuff. So yeah, we actually have something good here that is actually making them money. And it's my hope, it would be my dream, if Embracer let go of Crystal Dynamics and said, all right, this ain't working, bye-bye. We're going to let Aspyr and Saber Games take the helm here. I wish they would just continue the franchise in this style. And after Angel Darkness, say, okay, now let's get to the writing board. Let's create something new. And let's create something new in this engine and keep this style. Keep this kind of lower budget too. Obviously, we'd have to have a bit bigger of a budget for a new thing, but stay in this style, in this engine, and all that. We don't need $200 million Tomb Raider game. Okay? Keep this style going. That's what I would want to see. But what I expect to see is we have Crystal Dynamics and Amazon. They're going to release their flop of a game, and then maybe they'll get fired. But that's what I expect to see. And I expect to see probably remasters of Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld before it would get something new in this engine or something. By the same team, though, which is good that the same team would be on it. But personally, I wouldn't be that hyped for a Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld remaster, simply because, I mean, they already play fine and look good, like pretty good in current times. And I don't like what they did to the gameplay. They watered it down. I don't like that's where they started to make all the changes to Lara Croft's story and all that stuff. So it's not a classic experience. It just looks good. So that's my issue with all of that. So I would hope that they would just continue in this style and make a new adventure. But probably I'd be shocked if that happened. But that would be my dream. Anyway, before I keep on rambling, because I can talk about this for hours, I'm excited. Finally, some good news in the Tomb Raider world. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And if you want me to read the Bible to you, you can check out my Bible channel, Bible Time with Melanie Mac. Thank you all again. I'll catch you next time. And in the meantime, go boom.